Welcome to the Happy Disruptors podcast. If you're a creative thinker with an unconventional approach to your industry, you just might be a happy disruptor. Join your friends at the Great Outdoors Foundation for honest conversations about tackling critical issues like conservation with an uncritical disposition. If you like to smile and get things done, this is the podcast for you.
Hello, and welcome to the Happy Disruptors podcast. I'm Katie, and I'm so excited for you all to hear from today's guest. Tanner, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Tanner Fayborg. I'm a sixth-generation Iowa farmer. Live in Des Moines. The family farm is just about 45 minutes northeast of here, and it's been going into quite the transition.
Yes.
It's been a long journey, long process that I'm sure we'll get into.
Absolutely.
But basically converting a 25-acre farm into a demonstration hub, focused mainly on converting a hog confinement building that was operational for about 30 years into growing functional mushrooms. And creating value-added products like tinctures and mushroom coffee and things like that.
Yeah.
And and then having lots of conservation efforts, riparian buffer strip, oxbow restoration, and things like that.
So Tanner and I happened to meet, I think last fall, and he was so gracious to invite some of our team up to his family's farm. And ever since then, I just keep thinking about, oh my gosh, we've got to get this story to our listeners. So I'm really excited to dig into this evolution of what is now 1100 Farm.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. So you gave us very high level cliff notes on sort of where the farm started and where it's at now. But I want to back up a little bit and get into sort of the maybe the motivating priority or your own philosophy around conservation that brought you back to the farm initially. So would you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of kind of things that came together at once for this to happen. So it started to go way back. It's when I was a kid. My parents just wanted to, save up for a while and have a big family and live the homesteading lifestyle.
Yeah.
So that's back in the day where you could actually do that. You could actually save up with a minimum wage job for a few years and buy an acreage. My dad was a welder. We were living just about on the poverty line. And that's what we did. I had 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and we had a big orchard and, fruit orchard and garden and really, lots of diversity with different animals and kind of living off the land. We'd make applesauce and pear sauce and we'd can all these things, we'd keep it in the basement.
Yeah.
So every meal had something from the farm. And I know that's kind of romanticized these days. Back then, it was really a necessity.
Yeah.
We had to go collect. After a storm, we'd collect fallen, limbs and to have wood to heat the house. We had a wood burning stove, and that was great. My mom, made our clothes. She was a good seamstress, not the best at fashion, but looking back at some of those pictures.
Listen, any of us who grew up in like 90s, early 2000s, there were a lot of questionable fashion choices all the way around.
That's true. And it was great until I was 9 years old, and then Wendell Murphy from Murphy Farms came from North Carolina, and they were moving in. They were one of the first kind of hog integrators. So they would collect, they would own the whole system. They kind of started that, industrial contract livestock farming. And we were one of the first places where they knocked on the door and said, hey, it looks like we see you have some land here. You have a lot going on. I'm sure you're hard workers. How about if we help you out with a loan and we we build these 2 hog confinement buildings, 1,100 head each, and it'll be a wean to finish operation. And so you'll get them in about 30 pounds, take them to market, and you'll do that about twice a year. And, my parents are kind of thinking towards the future. How are they going to retire? We were getting a little older. One of their big dreams was for their kids, to help their kids go to college. They didn't go to college. They wanted to help, us to have that opportunity. And they didn't really have anything to compare it to at the time. There wasn't it didn't exist. So they didn't have neighbors to go say, hey, how does this work out? Like, did it work out for you? What are the ramifications? So, and the money at the time was a lot more than my dad was working the graveyard shift, swinging a hammer, doing backbreaking labor, all day. So they decided to go for it. And then those hog confinement buildings were built. And then it becomes this system that isn't, not everything works out the way that my parents and other farmers anticipate. And then it becomes even a harder system to get out of.
Yeah. So
fast forward, kids are gone, out of the house, free labor is gone.
Right.
Where, during the meantime, there's this proliferation of CAFOs just going everywhere, hog barns and turkey barns, chicken barns, just all over the place. And at the same time, this consolidation in the ag sector.
Right.
And this population loss and then the environmental impacts. And so, my family's noticing all these things that are happening. At the same time, the money is getting worse. The contracts they'll say you have to put on a new roof, do this, or they will end your contract. You'll have this debt.
Right.
They're trying to pay this debt off. I go off to college. I went to University of Iowa, and I became passionate about sustainability and environmentalism.
Yeah.
And started doing some nonprofit work. Left to travel for a while. I traveled abroad for a few years, learning a lot of things and just kind of opening my mind up to new possibilities, new ways to do things. I think traveling really helps you with that. Came back and wanted to make an impact right away on the farm. So working on some projects there, but decided to buy a house and move to Des Moines. And started leading a nonprofit, Urban Ambassadors, working on urban sustainability initiatives.
Doing great work. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Still with that organization. Can't find myself to leave. You have these projects and they go and you find some success and partnerships and it's really rewarding work. But at the same time, I saw all this progress being made in urban settings, but in agriculture and the food system, it was the opposite. We were heading in the wrong direction. And I was still, some weekends I'd have to go home and help out with the chores and things. And I'm like, I can't take this anymore. Like this is driving me crazy. And my parents wanted out and they're like, well, the buildings are paid off at that time, but what are they going to, that's a huge investment.
Huge investment. Yeah.
So it became kind of an existential problem. What is the future of this family farm? And they were thinking about selling it, and none of the, us kids are like, no, don't. Right. We have so many memories there.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in rural Iowa and rural America is it gets to this point where they're just, well, let's sell this. And then the house and everything else gets torn down. And then you have just, more cornfields and soybeans and then CAFOs. And none of us wanted that to happen. So I thought, what if, we have this great bones, this great infrastructure. What if we could, what if I found a way to repurpose it, create a different, more sustainable business model that could actually, make money and the family could be involved, keep it a family farm and maybe, revitalize, play a part in revitalization of rural Iowa and create jobs and so started the journey about 5 years ago.
Yeah. And journey feels like a little bit of an understatement because you're talking about this decision process. It's multiple generations. There's economic considerations. There's philosophical considerations about, the values that you and your family wanted to sort of contribute and perpetuate in the world. So how does one, you mentioned you're one of 5.
Yeah.
I can think of almost nothing that my siblings and I can find consensus on. So how did that process work for you, your siblings, and your parents?
Slowly.
Yeah.
It was a tough process. Yeah. You're right. There's just a lot of people with different opinions, and you're thinking about the future of the farm, and you have this, a bit of it is when you want to change anything, then you feel guilty about the reasons for changing and that you're in this industry. Mm-hmm. So on one side, there's, my parents were proud that we worked very hard, and, like their kids went to college and
Absolutely.
able to, provide for their family and everything. But at the same time, you have to, recognize some of these detrimental effects that this operation was having. But at first, I think it was mostly just everybody thought it was a pipe dream. Mm-hmm. My brothers were laughing at me, and my parents were like, "Sure, I mean, go ahead, work on it. If you find a solution and you can find funding and finance this, then yeah, of course we'd be open to it."
Right.
I didn't think at the time. I don't think they really thought there was much of a possibility of it happening.
Yeah.
That's when I really went to work, just doing the research, and it was tough to go it kind of alone to begin with a lot of kind of negativity and a lot of people, not too many people believing in the mission.
Yeah, and it does seem like, you talked about the benefits of your parents signing on to this agreement. There's a lot of infrastructure in place, sort of like systemic infrastructure. There's financing available. There's models that they can mimic. So, when you're looking at the standard commodities or sort of the conventional farming system, it feels like that would be really challenging to break away from, because we as a society have really rallied around the support mechanisms for, again, the sort of conventional approach to farming. Was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, there's with CAFOs and with contract factory farming and with commodity farming, row crop farming. There's a lot of, we've created this system that incentivizes that.
Right.
It incentivizes you to expand. It incentivizes you to keep, perpetuating this cycle, because once you get to a certain point, it's kind of hard to fail. There's just all these things worked in, and you have your market. The markets are set, so you don't have to worry about where are you going to sell your corn or where are you going to sell.
Yeah.
With the CAFO situation, if you're a contract farmer, you get guaranteed checks. You don't have to worry about it. You move over to specialty crops, and it's a challenge. You have to find the markets, and that involves marketing, and that involves creating a brand awareness, processing, all these things that are involved in running a business, while also figuring out how to grow something different that you've never grown before.
Yeah.
While doing it in the environment where there's a lot of people are skeptical, where if you're bringing on this change, and my grandpa just retired last year. He took over the farm. His dad died on the farm when he was 8. My grandpa took over when he was 10, and then they live. That farm's about 6 miles away, and he just retired. He has corn and soybeans, and he just retired last year at 92.
Wow.
So his aunts and uncles and grandparents and that are all kind of having a say, and that you need this buy-in, and you need this buy-in a bit from the community, and it's tough. But what really helped me out, what helped us out, was I reached out to an organization called Transfarmation. They were out of the West Coast, and they were on a mission to help farmers in similar situations move away from industrial factory farming, livestock farming, into a more sustainable plant-based business model. So initially it just started with a phone call, and it felt great, just the positivity and somebody have, on the other line saying, you're not crazy. This is a great thing that you're doing, and keep it up, and let's talk and let's find solutions. And that kind of, took off from there, and they selected 8 farms in the country to give kind of to pay for some consulting services and really crunch the numbers on like, what could we do? So we looked at everything. We looked at microgreens, tomatoes, lettuce, all these things. And then we stumbled upon mushrooms. And that is that, I just went completely down this rabbit hole and just completely live in this mushroom rabbit hole to this day, fell in love with it instantly, soaked up all I could on this. And then after some prepping and gathering up some money, created kind of a smaller, operation to get things going. And then that became more real. Then it became more realistic. And then it's like, okay, we actually can do this.
Right.
And then at a certain point, my older brother, who was laughing at me for a while, and who was actually working with pigs in a different capacity. He was he didn't own his own buildings, but he would manage about 70,000 pigs across 5 counties. So working 80 plus hours a week, every week. And he wanted out of it too. But just if you want to stay and you want to live in rural Iowa or rural America, there's just less and less opportunities. So he wanted out for a while. And then we got to that stage where, okay, we could make a run at this. And then he says, okay, I guess I'll help you out. Putting out something like that.
Yeah,
and,
of course. As we older siblings tend to do, right? Yeah.
And so he joined the team, and then, we made it, official and formed an LLC, 1100 Farm. Yeah. And started, got the website going and started selling products and became a real thing.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, planning on gauging the success of that, and then planning on the retrofit and how much money it would take to, get rid of the pigs and convert the hog and then have a mass expansion and then convert that hog house into growing mushrooms.
Yeah. So I want to back up a little bit, because I think for those who are not operating in sort of the conservation and ag space, when we talk about those systemic supports and sort of the way that the system has incentivized traditional commodities, row crop, particularly here in Iowa, and I mean, quite frankly, factory farming as well, this really goes back to policies that were enacted in almost 100 years ago, when we were looking at, okay, we are a growing global society. We need to have consistent food and energy source for the world.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? And that's shortly after a major environmental crisis in the Dust Bowl, right? So do you want to talk a little bit more? Because I know that you have gotten involved on the policy side of, from crop insurance to some of the incentive programs that exist in the Farm Bill today. Those are really some of the internal support systems that we're talking about that incentivize staying with corn and soy, and maybe de-incentivize some of these other specialty crops.
Yeah, it started. I'd say a lot of the political side of things and legislatively, a lot of it started really with Wendell Murphy. He was actually a politician in North Carolina, and his father was a politician, and they changed a lot of the laws to kind of deregulate certain standards with air quality, with water quality. And it became more and more of a deregulated industry, and that creates incentives where you're able to have these CAFOs and then use that manure and spread it right on on bare soil, and then just the massive lobbying effort too, it's such the Farm Bill is the way it is because there's so much money going into lobbying for commodities and for CAFOs, and things like crop insurance, as a specialty farmer, like there's a lot of these things that we don't, I don't get, we don't receive. We don't have any federal funding right now, at all.
Yeah.
I think, but it it's all intertwined. So with these CAFOs, a big motivation is that, with the price of fertilizer going up, that price of the manure becomes extremely valuable. So then a lot of people will, they'll buy more land, more corn and soybeans, and then they'll put up a CAFO mostly so they can have that free fertilizer. And because there are tax incentives to do this.
Right.
And then it becomes this just cycle of, okay, let's have more land, and then, okay, we'll need more hog barns to get that manure. And then it's just the density of it has just got to this point of madness where just the amount of manure alone is, especially in the state of Iowa, is astronomical.
Yeah, the other thing that I really want to touch on, and I'm sure you have a pulse on this, given your family's involvement in farming and then growing up in a farming community. This conversation is not to villainize farmers who are participating in this way. It is essential that we have farmers, and they are participating in a way that the system has said, this is what you do and this is what you get in return. So I want to say that because I think that it can start to feel like there's a finger pointing, and it's just not the case. I think that any one of us, when faced with that, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the opportunity, just like your parents had, to provide for their family, that is absolutely, highly esteemable and worthy. So I'm kind of rambling, but I have a feeling that you have a sense of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I would say, one of the biggest, pieces of advice that I would give to an organization or to someone trying to make change in this sector is do not demonize farmers. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
It's because again, you're talking about hardworking people who have gone through all sorts of tough times, and it's not easy being a farmer, and there's up years, there's down years, there's just family things happen. It's there's just a lot of injuries and things that happen on the farm, and it's difficult, and then you have you take pride in it. So you work hard, you have pride in that. Your parents worked hard, your grandparents, your great grandparents.
Yeah.
A lot of these, have been kind of doing these things for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then, if incentives are out there and you're competing with, why wouldn't you take them? Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're out there, why, why wouldn't you take certain, crop insurance or certain subsidies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it kind of, I guess that this will lead into our next conversation. And we are seeing an uptake in conservation implementation on private land, which is super encouraging. I think for our critics, maybe on the more progressive side, it's that it's not happening fast enough and not at the scale that we need. And I think that there is some merit to that perspective. But I do think that there has to be some appreciation for the fact that this is, yes, it's a system change, but it's also really a people change, because this is a deeply, this is an issue that's deeply rooted in the identity of many of these farmers, right?
Yeah.
They have been, in many cases, stewarding the land for generations and generations. So to have someone come in and wag their finger at them and say, this is not what you're to be doing, that seems really counterproductive to me.
Yeah. And then it becomes, just you have this greater divide, and then this, farmers are less likely to really have an open mind or want to talk to some of these folks when they've been told, like, you're a bad person, you're bad people. I mean, even we, get it, like, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 messages, I read this morning, saying, we'll never support you. You were evil for having pigs for all that time. And it's like, if you're real about change, like, you have to be honest about, like, who you're talking to, and, like, have some understanding of what they're going through, and like, they are people, and there are family dynamics at play, and there are periods of struggle, and there is a mentality of, like, putting food on the table and making things work, and not everybody is, like, it's privileged enough to just take a huge gamble and spend a lot of money on things that maybe they'd like to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know this gets into, I'm thinking about the risk that you took over the few years leading up to converting the farm. And I think you shared, you implemented solar panels and started doing some, like, riparian buffers and some other conservation practices. First, I want to know, how did you as a family decide what those incremental steps were going to be? And then my second question is, what was the response from your neighbors as you started doing that?
The evolution of responses and attitude from my neighbors has been very interesting.
Yeah.
Because, this is a place I grew up, a farm I grew up on. I, know everybody in the area. A lot of the people I went to school with still farm and live in the area. I'll go to the pub in Hubbard, and, we'll, talk, and, this comes up from time to time, for sure. But some things I found, like, one thing I found really interesting was, one of the first projects that we did was to install 74 panel solar ground mount insulation.
Yeah.
And people thought that, like, some neighbors and people thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
And even my parents thought it was a little crazy. And, then, I crunched the numbers, and it made sense, and we went for it, and we did it. And again, people are, like, laughing at us, and they're like, oh, you're just wasting money. It's a big waste of time. And then we actually went forward with it. And then those same skeptics and those same people were driving. They started driving in. They're like, hey, like,
just checking it out.
You actually went through with it, huh?
Yeah.
Just wanted to check it out. We're going to do a quick drive-by. And then they'd be back another time. They're like, yeah, okay, you did it, but you wasted, just a big waste of money, And then I'd show them, like the payback period, 6.5 year payback period. And then it would power the entire farm. And then through net metering, we're actually getting checks from the utility company instead of paying out.
Yeah.
And those same skeptics and the same people that were laughing have their own solar installations on their farms. A lot, and it spread like dominoes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them started, So that was earlier on, before this whole mushroom thing. But that really stuck with me, where when this became expanded into a demonstration hub. The idea was more than just, creating jobs for ourselves, like saving our family farm, doing things for the environment for the right reasons. But it hit me that maybe this could be a catalyst for change. And I think, you can have a lot of, I just think that a lot of farmers, it resonates a lot more if they see it coming from a place, maybe from an unlikely place. And if they see it as a success, and it's making money and it's creating jobs and, it's, revitalizing this, kind of saving these independent family farms, then, I think I just thought that would be a really great way to actually make some positive change.
Definitely.
So that's when we, again, partnering through transformation and really collecting all the data and the design and everything is in a way that's could be replicated.
Right.
And we're doing all the work ourselves and really getting creative, and then just being transparent about the whole thing. Like every step of the way, like we're taking videos and pictures and keeping track of every cost. And it's been a struggle, but yeah, I mean, we've made it this far. And like I said, it's an unlikely place. I mean, we're not, we have 25 acres. We're not rich. Like none of us are, rich or inherited a lot of money or anything. So started out with that smaller scope project and worked hard on that. And then the sales from that went into the construction costs for the retrofit of the hog barn. And then, we got lucky in some ways, and I guess just realized the appetite for this was out there when we started having more publications and more interest and more phone calls and emails people wanting to do stories. And then our big break came when we were on the front page of the New York Times.
Yeah.
And then, cool. That was a big moment for us when, we had this notification on our phone when, it'd ping a little bit, when we make a sale online through our website. And then, sales were going kind of slow. And then that article came out, and then the phone was just going crazy for 4 or 5 days, and we had to get all the aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody, neighbors, to work on packaging and so get all the products out, and so there's been some moments like that really helped us, but and that's another thing I talk about too, like change can be incremental, it doesn't have to be all at once.
Right. So
that's what we're trying to prove with a lot of the things on the farm. They're maybe smaller projects, like our riparian buffer strip. We have a creek that goes through the pasture. We're trying to do that, and we're just collecting the data, how, what worked, what didn't, what protection systems work, what don't.
Yeah.
And pollinator garden and converted the lagoon that held all the animal waste for so long into a freshwater pond that we could jump in and swim in.
Love it.
And kind of creating, these smaller projects that could be, like replicated on a larger scale, and just to show that it is possible and you could do it yourself on a lower budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm hesitant. We had an interview last week, and one of the guests who is a landowner himself and worked in farm insurance for quite a while. He said, if you've talked to one farmer, if you've met one farmer, then you've met one farmer. And that really, that struck me, because I think, from my perspective, I'm constantly trying to like assess trends and understand motivations and maybe, and not maybe, but likely wrong, to paint with a broad brush. At the risk of being wrong anyway, I'm going to ask, from your peers and from your family and from your community, what are the sentiments that you are noticing or observing, and have they changed at all over the course of this transformation your farm has undergone?
Within my family or the neighbors, or? Yes,
both.
Both. Yeah, I mean the just the attitude and just the change in kind of lifestyle, and the kind of change in like to be willing to accept and be open to further change in my family. I've noticed that a lot. I think you do one thing and it's, it works, then you're more likely to try another thing and another thing. And maybe not all these things are so crazy. So yeah, it's been really fun, really rewarding, like watching just the dynamics of my family on, my parents were really worried about this. Like they were, like my brothers and like sisters and people were worried about it. And now they're excited. Now they're excited about it. Now they're all, eating mushrooms every day and like taking tinctures every day.
Yeah.
My grandpa's like, asking like, for tinctures and things. And he's 92, like I said, and he's having these products every day. And my uncle and, neighbors and so that's exciting. And then another change that I've seen is it went from that kind of skepticism with some of these other, neighbor farmers that had hog houses or turkey houses and corn, soybeans. And like I said, a good place for conversation is at the hub in Hubbard. And all of a sudden, I don't go in there trying to preach anything I'm just there, to see some friends sometimes and
be
talk
the
about,
token hippie, right?
Whatever.
Every pub needs one.
No, we are not hippies. The story the headline of the Guardian story that came out yesterday, it's like we had this long interview.
Yeah.
I had this long interview and then like twice, and then like the headline I must have said in there somewhere, I'm like, we're not hippies. And that was that's
the headline. Like, oh my gosh,
the headline
I love
is
it.
Like, we're not hippies.
Yes. Yeah.
Iowa farm, changes, blah, blah. I'm like,
casually dropping that
like,
they're also in the Guardian, which is so fantastic. I think it's really cool that so much of what we believe, I think, is really rooted in story. And I'm sure I'm biased as someone who works in communications. I feel like we underestimate the power of story and the stories that we tell ourselves. So I really love that you are setting the record straight. My bad. Not the token hippie.
Well, I don't know. Some people probably would say that maybe. Depends on who you talk to.
Whenever I talk to my poppy, my grandpa, he always asks like what my favorite tree I've hugged lately was, and I'm like, that's actually not what I do, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Whatever people need to think.
I think I traveled like extensively, like quite a bit after college, and I think that's where I kind of got a hippie label, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
From the hometown.
That's fair, definitely.
But, anyways, no, like, so those conversations are changing.
Yeah.
Where those farmers are now like coming to me and asking me questions about how it's working and could they do this and how much money, like detailed, questions. So they've become open to this possibility of change.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the whole point, and that's what I think is really, really exciting.
And the fact that they can see through your parents and your siblings, and maybe they were not the young adult who went away and traveled, so maybe there's not identifiers there, but they can see and relate to the way that your family has coalesced around this initiative and see in themselves like, oh yeah, actually, like I can identify with a lot of the same motivations, and I can also see how this alternative method can be really successful and beneficial for my family, which is cool.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people obviously in rural Iowa, and you're seeing this population decline, and you're seeing these negative effects from consolidation, and you're seeing that through consolidation of schools. I mean, I went to Hubbard Radcliffe High School that no longer exists. You're seeing all these efficiencies that come with consolidation, but at what cost?
Right.
Year after year, you're seeing population decline, loss of opportunity. And I think that creates a lot of resentment, a lot of anxiety, a lot of folks out there who want to stay in those areas, who are kind of feeling like their culture and their whole, self-identity is being lost, and they don't know what to do about it. And so I think through, another benefit of diversification in the agricultural sector is like, let's get small again.
Absolutely.
Like, let's think of specialty crops.
Yeah.
Let's think of family farms. Let's think of independent operators.
Yeah.
And let's think of all the benefits that provides.
Most definitely.
And a big part of that is, keeping those communities intact, keeping those small towns. It's really sad to go to a majority of small towns in Iowa, drive through Main Street, and you'll see a lot of boarded up buildings.
Yeah.
A lot of shut down businesses and a lot of empty houses. And it's sad that, we've lost multiple neighbors who, like acreages that I grew up with and were sold, and houses were just knocked down.
Yeah.
And now there's a hog barn or a turkey barn. And a lot of it is, not an individual, but it's, corporate ag, coming in and doing that. And so I think a lot of people are starting to see that, and they're starting to see just those people moving away and want to do something about it.
Absolutely. And to that end, I want to make sure that we mention the Choose Iowa program that the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship has. They have grants and I think some support programs there for specialty crops, and even, agritourism, which is really growing and I think is has great opportunity for development in that sector moving forward. So if you are interested in learning more about that, make sure to check out the work that our partners at IDOLS are doing. Tanner, I want to make sure that we give listeners the information that they need about 1100 Farms. So where can they find more information? Tell them a little bit about the products that you have available.
Sure. So right now we're growing we're finally at the stage, we're almost completed with phase 1 of construction of the retrofit for the hog barn.
Yeah.
So I think it's been such a long journey. some folks might not know where we are with that. We're growing the mushrooms in there. We have the kitchen completed. We're just finishing up a few final touches, and then we'll be completely open for business in there, and then that'll give us the chance to expand. But for right now and in the past, we've been focused on the value-added products and the medicinal benefits that come from kind of extraction of mushroom, especially mushrooms. So we have lion's mane tinctures, reishi tinctures, and those are kind of the best medicinal way to consume mushrooms, because mushrooms have this hard cellular wall. So if you eat, it's good, good, healthy for you to eat fresh mushrooms, but your body can't break down those walls and process that. So we have this dual extraction method where we break down those walls. We get a lot of these medicinal, compounds, and then it comes in a dropper that you take every day and build up those compounds. And there's a whole, there's it's something called nerve growth factor that helps, in a lot of ways. It's, there's anti-inflammatory properties, gut health, depending on the mushroom. But there's lots of benefits. And that's another rewarding part about it too, is getting a lot of testimonials from strangers in California or Texas or wherever, saying like, I gave this a shot and this helped me or this helped me. The reishi, it affects your nervous system. So a lot of people will take it for anxiety or if they have a sleep problem. So for me, I was a lifelong insomniac. And then that's actually helped me with restful sleeps. But yeah, we have lion's mane coffee blend, hot chocolate. We're about to have mushroom jerky next week, I think is the hope.
Fantastic.
And then, so right now it's all on the website at 1100 Farm, so 1100farm.com. And then we're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Love it.
And place an order and we'll ship it right to you.
Excellent.
But yeah, exciting phase of growth right now. And then we'll have a whole new website out in about a month. Finally starting more of a marketing campaign that we have the funds to do that. And then we'll start expanding the capacity to have more mushrooms. And then for that, then we'll be able to sell more fresh mushrooms. And I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have to say, you were super gracious to send our team home with some samples when we made the visit out to your farm, and got to try the mushroom jerky and gave some to my husband, who's like a major carnivore. Could not believe it. He loved it, and we have just been anxiously awaiting the public release of the mushroom jerky so that we can get that just like on a subscription basis.
Yeah,
so,
I think, next week.
Fantastic. I'll mark my calendar. Okay, so we're going to move into our final segment of the podcast. If you want to grab your whiteboard, we're heading into Let's Whiteboard It. Tanner, my question for you is, what do you think people get wrong about conservation? And while Tanner is responding to our Let's Whiteboard It question, write or draw. You're welcome to do that. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Make sure to follow along with what the Great Outdoors Foundation is doing on all major social platforms. And if you're not already, subscribe to our newsletter at greatoutdoorsfoundation.org. That's where we share updates on what we are doing, what our partners are doing. And it's really the best way to stay up to date with our work. So, have I given you enough time? Okay. He's going for it. DIY. Okay, explain.
DIY. I think a lot of people, when they think about conservation efforts, it could be intimidating, and maybe they need to hire this out and they can't afford to. And there's a lot of things that you could do yourself. And I think, like I said, a lot of this is scalable. So you could start small, do it yourself. It's a rewarding experience.
Yeah.
And then you could learn something. And then I think the more things that you do yourself, the less intimidating other projects are. And then it's also just a great learning experience on
Yeah.
how these things work.
Definitely. And I'm going to infer that means for us urbanites, right? If you put on your urban ambassador's hat, you would say that people living in the suburbs, people living in urban conditions, there's always one step we could be taking, right, to improve our impact.
Yeah, I mean, you could start with just one small patch of your yard for, a pollinator garden.
Yeah,
Start
absolutely.
very small.
I love it.
You could start with just one little raised bed garden.
Mm-hmm.
You could, get a rain barrel and not too not that difficult, and install that at your house and collect the rainwater.
Definitely.
There's all plant a tree.
Fantastic. And I
Plant a
think you
tree.
guys are doing a major tree planting initiative, yeah? Or
Yeah,
just finished
with Urban Ambassadors,
Yes.
it's exciting times. We with partnership with the Public Works and the Des Moines Forestry.
Yeah.
We secured a $2.5 million grant
Amazing.
to kind of expand on a pilot project that we started with growing small seedlings, small trees that we get from the Iowa DNR nursery, and planting those in the right of way.
Yeah.
And so we'll be planting about 700 of those a year,
Wow.
and engaging the community, and it's all volunteer based.
Yeah.
To kind of get people out there to help with. So if you do, I'll put a plug out for Urban Ambassadors as
Definitely.
well.
We'll have to have you on for an entirely different episode to talk about all of that great work. And it's urbanambassadors.org.
Yep, urbanambassadors.org.
Fantastic.
And definitely in need of volunteers. It's this is an ambitious project.
Yeah.
And then we also, we lead the sustainability team for the Arts Fest, and we adopted Birdland Park, so we have trash cleanups all the time. We have, we've been running for about 5 years now, the Green Drinks event.
Yeah.
With sustainable, we bring in a speaker, and it's kind of a sustainable networking event at Twisted Vine, first Thursday of every month. And lots of other fun things as
Excellent.
well. So
Yeah. You don't even need the tincture to sleep because it sounds like there's no time for that regardless. So, Tanner, thank you.
But when I do sleep,
Yeah.
it's good sleep.
It's sound, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for listening. We will see you next week.